Welcome back to the What Mariel Made podcast. My name's Mariel and I'm a maker based out of Northern California where I live with my husband and our dog Wally. Thank you so much for being here. You can find me on Ravelry and Instagram at What Mariel Made for more real-time project updates if you are curious, so be sure to find me there. We are on episode 10. We have reached double digits. Thanks for being patient with me. Life's just kind of gotten in the way this last few weeks, but I've done a lot of knitting in the meantime and I have some exciting things to show you, so let's just jump in. I have one finished object. It is a very exciting finished object, and it is my Tessikana test knit sweater, which I have completed. This is a design by Kirsten Michelle Knits, and it is a colorwork yoke sweater, pullover sweater. It's the front, it's the back, and I'm so stinking proud of how this turned out. I'll put in a cutaway of what it looks like on, but yeah, let me just go over some basics if you're new here and it's your first time seeing this beauty. So the gauge really quickly, the yarn that it calls for, the pattern calls for is a DK weight yarn, but it's pretty flexible. Like I ended up using mostly a mix of Pure Gint, and Pure Gint, depending on the colorway you get from Sandnes Garn, I feel like the gauge kind of varies anywhere from like a true DK to like a worsted weight yarn. So I would say like if you have a bunch of worsted weight yarns in your stash already, or you're just looking to get some yarn to do a project like this, or this project in the future, a worsted weight should be perfectly fine. Just need to adjust your needle size accordingly. And that being said, the size of needles I used to meet gauge for various like parts of this sweater were anywhere from a 3.5 millimeter, 4.4 millimeter, or 4.5 millimeter needle. I used all three of those sizes on this sweater, so just FYI, if you have a needle set, it should be pretty standard in terms of like the needle sizes you have. And all of the yarn colors that I used will be on the screen, but they're also up on the Ravelry project page, so if you're curious about that, go look there. Just a few things to note on construction of this sweater and some modifications I made personally is that it does include, this is the back, and there are short rows for the back, so you have a little more fabric in the back than the front, which I personally love because you can kind of tell when you hold up the sweater which is the front versus the back, which is not always the case with sweaters. And then the modifications that I made were mainly for how I finished the sleeves here and the bottom edging, the body like wrap, the body edge. And I mentioned this in a past podcast episode, but I just wanted to do something a little bit different, and I figured I could echo the way this neckline looks as well by just doing a few rounds of the normal 2x2 rib, which would have been what the pattern actually called for, just 2x2 ribbing. But instead of doing like a full like however many centimeters of 2x2 ribbing, I decided to just do like 4 to 5 rounds of 2x2 ribbing, followed by just 4 rounds of normal stockinette. Sorry, let me hide my face, to create this like rolled edge that again echoes this rolled edge. And I got this idea mainly from doing this on the Cloud sweater by Petite Knit earlier this year. I just really liked how it kind of gives the sweater like a sweatshirty, like casual vibe to me. I don't know, because I also don't like my sleeves or my body ribbing to be too constricting. Like I didn't want like tight ribbing, so this was perfect for that. And I did also include the waist shaping here, so you can see like a slight indent where I did some decreases and increases out. And I did shorten the sleeves ever so slightly, only because I have short arms, but I followed the rate of increasing in the pattern. I just included one less decrease because I didn't need the sleeve to be that long. And I should also mention I made the second size. I made the extra small, I believe. And that's about it. For the body, again, because of the gauge of this yarn, the thickness of the Pure Gint that I used for this main body color, this ash melange color, was actually more on like the lighter DK weight side of like thickness. So I actually went up 0.5 millimeter in needle size just for the main color, main body color when I got to this gray color, just to make sure once I moved on from the color work portion that it wouldn't like constrict too much if I use the same smaller needle. So I think for the arms and the body, this main color is when I sized up to a 4.5 millimeter needle. So just FYI there. And then I also wanted to show you how the woven end side looks. So this is just the center back where the ends are woven in. You can kind of tell some of this is post blocking too, and some of the stitches are a little distorted, but for the most part I feel like it's fine. And then I also woven ends under the sleeves. Let me just show you, I'll pull this inside out so you can see the ends fully. It's nice to kind of see how different people do it and how it ends up looking. And because most of these yarns are also non-superwash, they're just normal wool, 100% wool, I feel like they've already kind of started felting together and getting more secure, so I'm not too worried about ends coming undone. Let me show you the unwoven end side of the floats. Just get a round of applause for the floats. It's really pretty. And then this is the section where I did weave in all the ends. You can kind of tell it's a little bumpy, little lumpy, but for the most part it was pretty easy to do if I just sat myself down and did it. And then underneath each of the sleeves is where I also wove in ends for the color work portion of the sleeves, but this ended up being really vital in making sure that I was also closing up any holes underneath where I picked up stitches for the sleeves and things like that, so that was good. So that's one sleeve, and the other sleeve looks like this. But I don't feel like it added too much weight at all, like all the woven ends, so that's pretty good. And that's it for this Tessikana sweater. The test knit itself is due at the end of September, so there's still quite a bit of time before this even gets released. But once it does, I will announce it on my Instagram, maybe on the podcast too, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, really enjoyed knitting this sweater. Loved how it turned out, loved how the colors ended up working together. I was kind of worried this blue wouldn't work out too well, or that it might look a little disjointed from the rest of the body, but I think it actually worked out pretty fine. So yeah. Love this piece, very proud of it. It's my first color work yoke pattern project, and I think I'll have this in my wardrobe forever. Like I think it'll be a classic warm winter sweater to have for the future. So very proud of that. That is my only finished object this week. All right, now going into works in progress. All right, I have one more test knit to talk about, and it is the Amoretta Blouse by the designer Bella of 100 Acre Wool. This is what I have so far. I'm testing for the smallest size, which makes it easy on me because I have the least amount of knitting to do. And so far this is what I have. So it would go around like this. And I've basically just done like the back and shoulders, increases for shoulders and sleeves. So I'll continue to work on this. And despite being a fingering weight garment, this has actually gone pretty quickly because I've also had to pull back a bunch because I made a mistake and miscounted some of my stitches. So I feel like overall I've been quite pleasantly surprised by how fast this has been going. The yarn I'm using is Linen Quill in the color Pale Oats, Linen Quill from Pearl Soho. And I ended up going with this yarn instead of, actually it's the original yarn I was planning to use is back here. This is Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino in the color Navy. I initially wanted to use this yarn, but then once I actually got it in and made my swatch, I just couldn't meet gauge, and the fabric ended up being a lot more open than I wanted to if I did want to meet gauge, so I ended up just going with something else in my stash, which is linen quill, because it's still fingering weight technically, but it's definitely on the like sportier side, or it just gets a little more fluffy because of some of the linen and alpaca bits mixed in there. So that's what I have here. And my main thing for this, my main like vision for this garment for myself was just to have it in like a more neutral color. So having it in this pale, like creamy off-white color works out well. And I have decided to basically make it like what one of the photos looks like, sample photos looks like, where I do a short sleeve. I'm gonna do this scalloped around the neckline, and I'm gonna do full button band down, so I'm gonna knit it flat. But I don't think I'm going to include the scalloped edges on the sleeves or the bottom hem. I'm just gonna kind of keep it a little more tame just to the neck and keep everything else pretty simple. I think that'll be most wearable for me in my wardrobe, but again, we'll see how that goes. And yeah, the experience of test knitting it has been pretty good. I will say, like, compared to other test knits, the other test knit I did, there weren't many like errors at all to catch or typos, but with this one, there's been quite a few things that have been caught already, but it's been nice just having other knitters to rely on, because there are definitely like many other knitters who are like farther along in this test knit than I am, so I've just kind of been waiting and like going along and making corrections to the pattern as I see fit too as well. So that's been pretty good, and that is that first work in progress. The next work in progress is a new cast on that I wanted to show y'all, and it is for a sweater that I'm making for my husband. And by for my husband, like, he's not a big knit sweater wearer. So my hope is that this sweater will look just as good on me and that I'll end up wearing it. But it is like a men's sweater pattern that I'm making, and it is the Northland Sweater by Petite Knit. Sorry, I got yarn in the nose, wool in the nose. This is what I have so far. I've gotten pretty far on it actually, because the gauge is pretty big for this. I think it calls for worsted or Aran weight yarn. I'm gonna say worsted or DK. But I'm using 5mm needles, and I got gauge with 5mm needles, so this is what I got. I'm making the third size, which I think is the medium. And I've already split for sleeves and have just been working on the body. And the yarn I'm using is a yarn that I got from Korea earlier this year, and it's actually these 2 cones here. There were 3 cones sitting right here. And I'm finally using this yarn. This was like a very spontaneous cast on, but this is the cream cashmere wool yarn from Punner Story. And it is like a mix of like recycled wool and cashmere. And because it's on the cone, it looks a little thinner, but I believe once it's all washed up and fully blocked, it does end up being like a solid worsted, maybe light Aran weight yarn. And I definitely liked the feel of this. My husband's very sensitive to like itchy, scratchy wool and fabric, so I think this will work out quite nicely. And the color is nice. It's just like a heather gray, mid-toned heather gray. And yeah, this has kind of been just like my in-between working on test knits or just craving like a thicker gauge yarn project to work on. This is what I've been picking up. And so far it's been really nice, and the construction of this has been really like engaging and fun to do. It's not quite a raglan, like there's some raglan increases at the very end here, but I don't know what type of sleeve this is, but the sleeve it's very pretty and very structured and very satisfying to knit. So if you know what this type of sleeve is called, please let me know. But the construction of it is actually very similar to the Amoretta blouse. Like you start with like the top, it's like kind of a saddle-y, I don't know. I've never actually done a formal saddle shoulder either, but yeah, it's really nice. I hope it fits my husband. I'm gonna add the collar soon, and then we'll see before I kind of go on too far. But yeah, so far I've been really liking this, and I think it'll be a good staple eventually to have in the wardrobe, in our wardrobe. All right, so that's the Northland Sweater by Petite Knit. My next work in progress, I have two more. My second to last work in progress are some socks that I started these this week just to have something to work on my commute. I actually started a different pair of socks and then ended up not really liking the colors I chose, so I ended up pivoting to this color combination. These socks are inspired by the newest Summerlee Colorwork Cuff Club sock pattern that came out, which is basically like a take on like a grid checker type pattern. But I just made it like a simple two color colorwork pattern grid, and this is what I mean. This is what I have so far. It'll focus, but yeah, isn't it cool? I feel like mixed with the colors that I chose, like the yarn that I chose, and also the motif itself, like this grid motif, it comes out really like clean and modern looking, but also, yeah, just like, but not too punchy because it has the brown as like the main color. It's like pretty neutral still, but just catches the eye. I'm using Cascade Heritage yarns for this. The colors I think literally are called like brown and blue, but I'll have all the details on Ravelry. And in terms of what I'm using two 9-inch circulars because I like to knit socks 2 at a time. And they are 2.5 millimeter or US 1.5. And that's mainly, not necessarily because it's colorwork, but because they're the only sock needles that I have, like this size. I only have 2.5 millimeter. I never started with 2.25, so I just use 2.5, but they work well, especially if you're working with like floats and colorwork. And yes, I love how this turned out. I think I'm going to be doing this grid pattern a lot more with more color combinations in the future. It's very potato chippy and addicting because the motif itself like goes by pretty quickly. And if you want to do this type of sock for yourself, you can definitely like adjust the stitch counts and everything, and all the details are on Ravelry again. But just really quick, I always cast on with an old Norwegian or German twisted cast on because it's a little stretchier. I've been really loving a 2x1 cuff, ribbed cuff. And for this pattern specifically, you just need to make sure your total stitch count is a multiple of 6 because the stripes themselves are 2 stitches and 2 rows thick, if you can tell. So the full pattern repeat from like this blue to this last brown stitch is 6 stitches total because the stripe itself, the grid stripes takes 2 stitches, and then the brown, like the box, is a total of 4x4. So 2 plus 4 is 6, sorry. And yeah, and likewise, lengthwise too, you want to do 4 rounds for the box and then 2 rounds for the stripe. So just make sure your total stitch count is a multiple of 6. I ended up going with a 66 stitch count because usually for socks on me I do 64 stitches, and I figured because it's color work, might as well make it like a little looser just in case my floats are a little tight. So I went with 66. I think I could have gone with a 60 stitches too, but it might have been a little tight and I didn't want to risk it. So yeah, these have worked up really fast. I'm doing a shadow wrap heel. And I'll probably have to close up the holes that I always get like right here on my socks, but that's normal. That would be with any sock in general too, just to finish it up and polish it nicely. But yeah, you can sub in whatever heel construction you want and toe construction you want and cuff. Like just do whatever you prefer and what works for you. And this is like a pleasant surprise. I wasn't expecting to like work on these so fast and for them to work just, yeah. I wasn't sure if there would be enough contrast with the colors as well, but I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. So those are my socks. Those are my commute socks. And then finally, I have my last whip to talk about is for the Wooliest DreamsKAL, Wooliest Dreams Knit-along that I'm hosting with Erica Taylor Creative. If you want to participate, all the rules are in the description but really quick, you just need to follow us both on Instagram, start your dream project, cast it on, and then post about it on Instagram and use the hashtag WooliestDreamsKAL, and that's it. You don't have to finish it, just start it and hopefully make some progress. So for my project, I chose the Stella Quilt Cushion by Laura Penrose, and I've made a lot of progress on this. I want to just hold it up in the right direction. This is what we have so far. Yay! I love how the colors turned out. I had this planned out, but you know, until you like see it, especially this motif, because you have all the 8 different colors, I feel like you don't really get a full grasp on like how it's gonna turn out until you like actually see it come together. I was on the fence about like what order to put these 2 like yellowy colors up at the top, but I'm happy with how it turned out here. And I'll show you the back too, because I know sometimes that's like helpful to see how other people have how their ends look or how it's woven in. So for this project, I'm keeping my ends all unwoven in on purpose until the end because, and Laura Penrose recommends this herself, like it's kind of nice to have the ends to weave in at the end because then you can really go in and like perfect any imperfect corners maybe or points that aren't lining up quite as well as you want. Like if you need to duplicate stitch anything or pull something a little tighter, you can just go ahead and do that at the very end of like the finishing of the cushion top, and you should be good to go. So this is what I got. I'm using all stash yarn too, which I'm so proud of. So this is all, for the most part, yeah, all sock yarn, just held double. My handy dandy scale, just split all the balls that I had in half, made sure I had like equal amounts. And I do plan to also do the knit back just in this like off-white undyed yarn color too. So yeah, I think that's all I had to say. I watched a lot of Alone season 12 on Netflix while working on this, so that's the memory that this evokes. But yeah, I love it. I love a good like rainbow-esque inspired motif. So that's what inspired me to do it in like this color order. And this will be the orientation too, with like the darker colors kind of grounding the pillow, the motif coloring like at the bottom. I think that works out well. But yeah. I think a few other folks are doing the Stella Quilt Cushion for the knit-along, so that's been fun to see too. So please share your progress with me on Instagram if you are also working on the Stella Quilt Cushion. Such a fun project to see the progress on. So love this, and because it's all garter stitch, it's like really squishy and nice to hold. And I believe that is it for my projects. Hey everyone, really quick, just wanted to share some exciting news. So we do have a prize decided on for the KAL. Erica and I had somebody reach out to us, a fellow knitter friend and yarn enthusiast who's just getting her new hand-dyed yarn brand started and off the ground. And so Marie-Louise is starting her brand, which I'll put up on the screen, and just wants to kind of get her name out there and generously offered to sponsor the prize. So the prize will be 2 100-gram fingering weight skeins of any of the colors that Marie-Louise has. So once we choose our winner, we'll put you in contact with Marie and you can choose your the 2 yarns that you want, and she will send them to you as the prize. So that's not incentive to join the KAL. I don't know what is, but yeah, just really grateful she reached out and that we're all kind of, you know, helping each other, you know, spread the news and share in this community together. So yeah, go join our KAL and check out Marie-Louise's yarn brand. And yeah, that's it. Exciting, yay! I don't have any acquisitions. No yarn acquisitions or anything this week or this episode because I've been really trying to work out of my stash, which has been good. I still have some plans that I have in mind, like this is linen quill in vintage Celadon, and I really want to cake it up and get it prepared to cast on a ranunculus that I want to make for my mom, who's going to be in town coincidentally next week. So I figured if I can start that while she's in town and kind of get some of the sizing in place, that could be cool. But otherwise, yeah, that's all I have. If I do end up finishing the Stella Quilt Cushion soon, I still have all of September and October to do another dream knit, so I might try to cast something else on, but we'll see. Like this red yarn that I got from Joanne a while back, oh, I'm kind of mad at myself for not getting 500 to 600 grams of it, because that's how much I would need for like a full sweater or cardigan without having to play yarn chicken, but I only have 400 grams. So I'm contemplating using this paired with like a heathery brown yarn that I have in my stash to maybe do like a striped cardigan of sorts. I just don't know how wearable that would be for my wardrobe, or just commit to doing a full red sweater and going back to Joann's and like bringing one of these with me just so I can kind of like match the dye lots a little bit better, and just get 2 more balls and then I'll be set, because each one of these balls is 100 grams. So that has yet to be decided, but yeah, I don't think I'll need to get any like huge orders of yarn anytime soon, even though, you know, could always use more yarn. I always want more yarn, but do I need it? No. So that's it for like plans. Another like fun crafty project I've been thinking of doing, but maybe I'll just like postpone it till later once I have gone through more of my stash, or just like have more space to get more craft supplies, is the owner and dyer for Hello Stella Fibers. She's been sharing about these like beaded like 2mm beaded fish that she's been making and like selling as like stitch markers or just like charms, and they're so cute. But I know that's kind of like a project I want to do on a whim right now, and as soon as I get all the items or the supplies in, I don't know that I would actually do anything with them right away. So I'm gonna hold off on that, see if maybe I can like jump on that in the future. And that's it in terms of like crafty things on my brain, or that I've been working on my needles. I do have some podcast recommendations for people that I've been watching. One is Mackenzie from the Emtothethird YouTube channel. Emtothethird is also the channel that hosts the Sibling Energy podcast. So I've been watching both the Sibling Energy podcasts, which I've mentioned in a past episode, and then also just like Mackenzie's, just her normal knitting podcast where she talks about her projects. And she has such a great eye for color and design, and she's also a yarn dyer too, I believe. But yeah, I get so inspired by seeing the projects on their channel, so highly recommend Emtothethird. And then another channel that I had like watched some of the backlog of recently is the Trivial Knits podcast, which is hosted by Laura, who is a knitter based out of LA, but she's a 2-time Jeopardy champion, and so that's why her channel is called Trivial Knits. At the end of every episode, she'll include like 1 or 2 to 3 trivia questions related to knitting or like wool or yarn or something like that, and it's been fun to kind of like wait for that and then like take a guess or just like Google the answers, because you learn like a fun amount just through like fun things like questions like that. So those are the podcasts I've been watching and really enjoying. And then some other like random media people. Food related media person is Hailee Catalano. She has channels like everywhere, but yeah, on YouTube. She's on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I just like her recipes in general, and her food content. She makes cooking seem really easy, and she's like a classically trained like professional chef, or had like professional experience. But she and her partner Chuck also have a separate TikTok where they'll cook like a dinner every Friday together for like a date night, and the food they make just always sounds so good. And I feel like you pick up on like tips and tricks here and there, or like meal ideas, so that's been really fun to watch. And then a style or like fashion based channel here on YouTube is Gina Stoval. Plain. Gina's channel I've really enjoyed too, just to kind of see her style. She has pretty classic, like French leaning style, but I like watching her stuff and getting inspired by that too. And then there's one Korean drama recommendation, which is not normally something that I'll recommend. I am Korean American, but I don't always watch like Korean dramas. Like I'm not always watching Korean TV, but sometimes I'll just like get into the mood where I'm like, I need to watch a drama, or like I really want to watch something. So the drama that I most recently finished is one from earlier this year. It came out and it's called Marry My Husband, and it's based on a webtoon, and it's just very entertaining. My youngest sister told me about it because she and my mom watched it a few weeks ago, and I watched it because they recommended it. And now I've turned my other sister on to watch it, and it's just very good. It's just very fun, very entertaining. That's all I'll say. I enjoyed it a lot. That's all I'll say. Oh, and I watched it on Amazon Prime Video. So if you have Amazon Prime, you should have access to that Korean drama. All right. The last fun thing that happened to me that I wanted to mention, I didn't want to forget this. I even took a photo of this thing that happened because I wanted to mention it here. On my morning commute a few weeks ago, a knitter sat next to me. I was like half asleep and I didn't have a knitting project with me, unfortunately, but I was like bobbing like in and out of sleep because my commute can get kind of long. And I woke up like kind of half asleep, just woke up in the morning, like noticed somebody was sitting next to me, and it was this woman doing like a fingering weight color work project, like so focused. And it was like a Halloween themed one, and it was just like so cool, but I was like so disoriented as well. But I managed to take like a shaky photo of like her hands, like her project, because it was pretty creepy of me to do that, but I was amazed. And I was like, man, if only I had like a sock project or something, I could like whip it out and be like, hey, like do a knit or not. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that because I just thought it was fun, and I like immediately texted my husband about it and was like, oh my gosh, like you will never guess like who's sitting next to me. So yeah, I just think it's fun spotting fellow like knitters with a capital K out in the wild. I just like that. It's fun. But yeah, that's all I have for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you are going to join the KAL. If not, that's fine too. But if not, just let me know what you're working on. I'm always, you know, looking to see what people are looking to work on or about to work on. And yeah, the knit-along goes till the end of October. So you have till Halloween to cast on a project and post about it. So just follow me and Erica if you do. And that's it. That's all I got. Oh, got a spooked pup. Hello. We're dog sitting for my sister, so I have double the amount of paws in the house. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.